Thank you for tuning in to the Friday edition. Tonight, there will be no 90s party line. That's why I'm dropping it right now. Gracias, first off, to all the day oneers. Special shout out always to the members only. If you clicked on this video, it's probably because you saw that thumbnail or you saw that caption and you're like, this is a conversation a lot of Chicanos don't want to have. A lot of the raza does not want to talk about. But here on Chicano Tube, we're going to talk about it. And we're going to make our voice be heard about it. So don't forget to do that big three. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, and hit the bell. And when you hit the bell, hit the all. If it's your cup of tea. Maybe I'm not for everyone, right? So let's go ahead and get right into it. So you've seen the thumbnail. Here's the conversation that is taboo. Ooh, who wants to talk about it? Well, why? Because it involves a legendary individual who organized people, got people together, and was moving at a time where, in those decades, a lot of shit needed to be reorganized, okay? How about I lay some foundation down? First foundation I want to lay down is that Cesar Chavez, or middle name I believe is Estrada, Cesar Estrada Chavez, identified as Chicano. As Chicano, if you asked him on countless interviews, Chicano. And I've said it here, of course, on Chicano Tube, right? Several different angles I approach it, but in a crux, he was born in Yuma, and his parents or grandparents migrated over. And then after he was born, he ended up moving to what they call Northern California. Is really not. I just got to keep it real with you. It's actually Central California. It's like if they were to divide a pinchy equator right down the middle of California, that's where it's going to be. And that's where we are. But guess where we at? We're closer to the ocean. We're closer to the ocean. So we got some postcard sceneries around here. Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, I'm going to retire in Carmel by the Sea. I'm going to buy one of those little Lord of the Ring looking houses and just, be looking like John Travolta retired in his older days. I mean, in his senior citizen days. But anyways, I digressed again. That's why some comment below and they say the digress king strikes again. So Cesar Chavez, he's come out on countless interviews. He said things, illegals. He said wetbacks. He's opened that up to a time where he was a proponent of political things where people were not. It's not the 2020s where, like LG and all this other, the 10 letter groups. That he was a proponent for that in a time when it was very new. Different things. And then when you hear out of a brown man, I mean, okay, se parece el güey, se mira, okay, you can see the nopal in the frente, okay. If you were to see him, you'd be like, okay, spoke mostly English because he was born right here. And his policies were like, he wanted complete border control, border shut off. That's what he wanted. He wanted them to close the borders, okay, and even was a proponent for these programs that were like modern day Minutemen of individuals guarding the border to stop undocumented from coming over. Undocumented immigrants. There's been undocumented immigrants, and there's been immigrants since the beginning of time, whether they're a pata, and they just came across that way a pata, or they came over on a boat. You know what I mean? The ones that pata, well, if we go back to older times, let's talk decades ago, okay, only a couple centuries ago, the geographical boundaries are different. You wonder why you're in California and most people speak Spanish? Is that a shocker to you? Some people say it like this. They say, we didn't cross the border crossed us. Hey, it is what it is. But we could talk about that too. Maybe on a Wednesday, the Wednesday Live, the open talks that we're going to start bringing guests on every week. Be on the lookout for that flyer. On interviews, wetbacks, whoa, and he's browner than why? Because he's a Chicano. Remember, Chicanos were just in the middle. A lot of us call us la raza de oro. We're too brown to be American, but we're too white to be Mexican. So what did they do? Well, they came up with the derogatory term, right? Estos cabrones son chicos. And since they're chicos, they ran with it a little bit later. Something derogatory, obviously later on, something that's highly offensive or derogatory is acceptable. And I can go on in those words. And he's all for if his union workers could only control the labor force. Now, they've been trying to control the farm labor force for years, and no one had any success. But here comes a man. He got married. He also moved over to the San Jose area, but then came back and relocated in Delano. Amidst everything that was happening in the 60s, you had, and I'm going to say it, characters like Dr. Martin Luther King, who, see, when you hear a voice and the voice has a message and the message has never been heard before, civil rights, hence Dr. Martin Luther King, what he was saying, that's a prophetic message. It's a new message, you know. And Cesar Chavez really was coming from a standpoint of like, hey, my parents came over here to work, so they've been in these fields forever. I mean, at least, possibly over a century. Possibly. I mean, they didn't have, obviously, social media and cameras back then, but Mexicans working aquí. And, but they would have tents under trees. They would sleep en el pinche piso, in a carpa, crossing over, because there was more opportunity. Okay? Not to cagar on the Mexican government, but back then it was just not what it is now. And actually right now, if you didn't know, Mexico actually has better GDP than the United States. We could talk about that too. He had a voice to try to unionize people because remember, there's only two entities involved. There's only two entities involved. It's the farm worker, the laborer, el que cosecha, el campesino, and there's the growers. There's the ranchers. They're the property owners. So of course, when they migrated over here and then started to have Chicanos, the houses were just exclusively for certain people. They weren't for everyone. So that's why they were sleeping in areas where they even got one cabron back then. I guess they already had the first black and white cameras. They got one cabron and he was like the contractor. He was like the grower. You know what I mean? Just, of course, I know it's a documentary and documentaries have agendas, you guys. Do you ever think you click on a documentary on Netflix and be like, this documentary right here is 100% gonna give me an unbiased opinion, an unbiased view of the subject matter? Cabron. Come on, hit that like. And the growers, so if those two who are already a powerhouse, but no one was ever able to unionize the farm labor industry. No one was ever able to organize them, but he did. He did. If they could just be as powerful, they could do business. Hey, it's equality. That's all I want. Now the modern day numbers, they don't match that. Now they don't match that. Now it's like less than 2% is in the union because, well, the conditions aren't the same no more. Now they're building housing extreme. I could speak on it. Because here in the city of Salinas, we have one of the first United Farm Worker headquarters. Because Salinas and the whole gateway to Yuma and all that's the corridor, if you didn't know. And if you didn't know as well, the ag industry is like a 2 to 4, maybe 4 to 6 now. This was 5-6 years ago, $2 to $4 billion industry. And 50% of the produce gets exported from this valley. Okay, so he was able to get all the gente from there. And it was rough in the beginning. I seen videos. They were like at the side of the fields. They were telling, vente pa acá, la causa, huelga, huelga. They actually banned the word huelga in a couple of the cities. At least I know it was in Bakersfield or Delano. They banned the word as just trying to move it was a different time, trying to move everything against someone that's just ruffling feathers, just has a different voice. So yes, organizing the people, but at the same time, the people started to see some things they didn't agree to. Because let me tell you, modern day, Cesar Chavez, modern day would be 100% for closing the border. 100% for closing the border. That's just the first thing. And on and on and on. Of all these single issues that are political issues. Right now, if he was, man, how much does an effect did it have that the unions didn't get that strong no more because, well, negotiations started to become fair because all of a sudden we had laws being enacted, and these all came in the 70s. So what the span that we're talking about right now is like 40 years. It was like a 40-year span that we touched from the Chicano moratorium. Okay, let's just shout that out too, the Chicano moratorium, you guys. I mean, come on, everyone knows Los Angeles. Shout out to Los Angeles. Everyone knows Los Angeles is Chicano Central. Let's just keep it 1,000. Chicano Central, and has always had that place, and let's give them their credit historically, right? And when I say this, I'm not saying Chicanos, you're on Chicano too, so obviously you vibe with it. I'm not saying that as some kind of superior or some kind of, no, that's the last thing I'm saying. I'm saying this because this is an identity thing, and we should be proud of where we are. You know, you'll never, I'll give you the definition of Chicano a different time every single pinche episode, because yes, I understand what it means in its traditional sense, but it goes more than that. It's a very proud, Chicanos are a vision. Here I am digressing real quick. I don't want to lose that thought. We're a vision of our parents also as well that was manifested that we could have a better life. Hey, and embrace two cultures. Okay, I've digressed. Let me go back. Cesar Chavez. The wetback, the this, the that, está más café y se mira más mexicano. It's prevalent in Mexico. And no matter what nationality or culture or wherever you're at, right? That's all perception. That's all that is. The perception that I'm in an upper class against the perception that you're in a lower class. That goes for every single person, right? I want to kind of wrap this up. I'm not going to make it a long video, okay? Because I got more thoughts on there. And there's, of course, there's biographies out and there's documentaries out where you can go ahead and do your research. But the man said things right now that would be very controversial. And he was a proud Chicano. He was a proud Chicano. Just like Cheech Marin. I seen another video that he was talking about, you know, it's like you can be born Mexican-American, but you can't be born Chicano. Just that beautiful thing that's there, right? That you get to embrace two cultures, and it is what it is, right? So Cesar Chavez, very controversial figure. We got to talk about it. I don't know. Was he more for getting them together, or was he not for getting the gente together? I want you guys to comment below. Words have been said. There's videos out there, but you let me know. Here on Chicano Tube, we're going to talk these controversial topics every single time. This is the Friday drop. Happy birthday to the wifey. We will be back to our regularly scheduled program with some new announcements, but via flyer on the community page. Gracias to everyone for smashing through 5K. Remember what I always say, in the end, all you got is the memories.